Technology, don't fail me now. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting roller coaster because my oldest is like a bit older, so I wasn't really thinking that this was going to be a situation, and like this late, I thought it was like early menopause and stuff. So trying to kind of like
Okay.
get into the swing of things, I'm like, all right, I forgot about all of these like moving pieces to all of this. This is different.
Okay. Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow. Congratulations on this new journey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of journeys, please, I started YouTubing and investigating, and there was so much beautiful things to unpack. I don't even know where to start. So, at the
Okay.
beginning, I'm Casey. This is Pinecase. Welcome, Leo. Welcome, everybody. My goodness, a Thursday night. It has been such an interesting 2024. There's so much in the news. There's so much happening in people's personal lives. And I feel like we've finally broken out of like the kind of shell that was COVID, and all of this great stuff is coming from the arts and culture space. And you are such a massive contribution, blah, blah, all the things, contribution to the arts and culture. My
Whoa.
goodness.
Yeah.
Leo Johnson. Woo! I had to get that one out. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining me this evening. Please tell everybody out there exactly how this started, how you got to music, and all the way around, because not only is music a beautiful part of the story, but there is a lot more to it. So
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm like, ooh, okay, where do I begin? I'm like, what did you find? Okay. Well, hey, howdy everybody. I'm so excited to get into this. Yeah, music found me in many different places. Firstly, I was in my mom's choir as a kiddo from, you know, the age of 8 onward. I was in theater as a kiddo from like 4 to 18, and in these spaces I really got to explore my voice, my storytelling, and got to explore sort of just like being as loud and as big as, filling up the space. And for a long time I considered myself an actor, and coming to Vancouver is what truly kind of um just, sometimes you open a door, and I opened up the Vancouver door and
oh,
music just came rushing out.
yes,
Yeah.
they don't get enough credit. I don't know what it is about Canada and why we try and keep things to ourselves, but
Hmm.
Vancouver is a mecca for
Yeah,
music. Like
absolutely.
especially like in the urban hip hop, like artist storytelling, that
Yeah.
space. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes, and poetry and folk music and yeah, and storytelling, and yeah, and I really haven't turned back after that. After that moment of stumbling into a cafe and seeing some of the local legends, I just was like, okay, it found me. I'm home. I'm home.
That's awesome. Where were you before Vancouver?
I grew up in Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Okay.
On yeah, in the last stop of the Underground Railroad. So lots of major history there. And I moved to Washington, where I met my father and the rest of my family there. And mid '90s, and yeah, I've been in Vancouver since the early 2000s. So it's kind of a East Coast West Coast thing for me.
Oh, that's amazing to be able to take like a piece of both of those spaces when it comes to art. I know that we're all one big country, but they're so different between the spaces. And I know just like for myself, when we talk about like the music industry, it looks a little bit different on the East Coast, West Coast. So that's neat to be able to
Mhm.
like kind of take both of them in a really genuine way and
Absolutely.
come through with it.
Yeah.
So, what have you been working on?
Oh, okay. Well, these days it's a lot of um a lot of just welcoming myself,
Yeah.
bringing myself back in, letting go, a lot of reflection, a lot of, you know, curiosity and, uh, yeah, and expansive, exploration and creatively as well. I would consider that creative as well. But with music, I've been in the studio. I actually just finished my last overdub. Um, I guess that was last week. So now it's
Oh,
in the
wow.
mixing. Yeah. So I'm very excited to be releasing that in the coming months. Yeah.
Very cool. So we got something to look forward to.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's fun. Were you hinting at maybe some, like, is it fair to say some like lifestyle exploration? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah, that's kind of my day to day. Honestly,
Okay.
it's taken center stage. You had mentioned COVID at the very beginning there, and I really did double down on, um, yeah, on wellness and those aspects of. I actually in 2020 I stumbled across a video about meditation, and I was
Okay.
talking to my friend and was like, wow, have you ever heard of this thing called mindfulness? And she was
Oh,
like, oh honey, yes.
aw, you're so pretty.
Like, oh sweetheart. Which just really expanded my mind to, yeah, my inner self and my intuition and and all of that good stuff. So it's been
Mm.
a beautiful journey, and yeah, and something that I have with ease have been dedicating myself to, because I'm just so interested. My interest is always peaked.
It's funny when people talk about self-care, and we've been talking about it a lot at Pinecase because
Hmm.
it looks so different for everybody, and it's cool. You get to do whatever that is. Um, it's crazy because by definition, it also can look like the one that kind of shocked me was like, oh, if you can, you know, like if drinking or like snorting cocaine looks like self-care, if that's what it means for you to go through all the spaces to relax, to get yourself in the moment, and to do that all the way through to something like journaling, because journaling at its extreme can also put you
Totally.
in that same space, right? And I was like, whoa, I did not know
Interesting.
that was how kind of wide the variety is, because to me, I've always kind of been ignorant with it. I thought self-care was like having a bubble bath and taking time to myself, and then it was brought to me in a very clinical way the other day that that's not the case at all. That as long as the things that you're doing aren't causing harm to you and people around you, that it is as extreme as you can imagine. And I was like,
Interesting.
wait a minute, we have been missing out on all these like individual moving pieces because we always rely on what other people's expectation of what self-care is, right? I'm like,
Mm.
oh, well, what do? You go for a walk? Okay, well, I'm going to try that. But it's
It's
so much.
and it's like the intention. It's like the intention, and however
Mhm.
that intention is, the actual action from what you're sharing. I love that actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and exactly. Intention is definitely like at the forefront of that, right? Because I mean, you could place anything in that space, and if you have the right, or not even the right, but the most productive intention with it, then it doesn't really matter what that thing is, I
Yeah,
think.
and what aligns with you. And then that goes to
Mhm.
the intuition, it's like something that works for me may not work for you, or it might work for you, or and I love wide I love making that spectrum as big as possible,
Yeah,
because, as you said, otherwise you're missing out on, and it makes me, yeah, it brings me to reflect on, like, sort of before that moment where I'm leaning into my friend being like, have you heard of self care? Before that, my tools were drinking, was smoking, was,
right.
also writing, and actually, to get into a good writing sesh, I would have my moment outside, looking up into the sky, like having a cigarette, and then being like, okay, get into it. So, and
Yeah.
at some point it stopped resonating with me and wasn't aligned. So I do like that reframe, because it's like, it's all part of the journey, right? It all is part of our perspective, our unique perspective that we get the opportunity to have while we're here on earth.
Yeah, it's so funny because up until I kind of heard it put that way, I always thought that those maybe things that people would consider like maybe negative or not productive or whatever. So they were
Mhm.
like substances or drinks or whatever. I don't know, everyone has their own opinion, but I always looked at that as like a reward system and not necessarily self-care. It wasn't
Mm.
like I need to do this to like be comfortable or to like give myself that minute. I was like, I earned this. I worked all day and I get to dot, 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 right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, wait a second. It doesn't even have to be that big. Like it can just be as simple as, like you can, relate it straight across to like, painting your toenails or, cleaning the laces on your shoes or whatever, and I
Mhm.
was like, great, yeah. So what
Yeah, I
other,
love that.
yeah, it's different. Hey, it's something that I hear about so often. And then, but it's like a lot of things, I think, like there's a lot of things that I think that I know. And then when somebody else comes with it, I'm like, oh,
Hold up.
wait, you do that for that reason? Like, what do you mean food is nourishment or like food can be therapeutic or food? I was like, I
Mhm.
was just trying to feel I was just trying to get full. Like, I didn't even think of it as a way of like,
Mhm.
um, retaining vitamins and minerals, like so to speak, right? Like there's
Yes. Yes,
so
yes,
many
yes, yes,
different
yes,
things that
yes.
come around like that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm. What other things do you do for self-care?
Um, my Well, I was gonna say it was interesting when you were sharing that, like, with my counselor, who I was working with for a little bit there. I would say, oh, meditation. Sometimes I'm not able to quiet my mind enough to actually like have a quiet meditation. And they said, well, what if that's not your thing? Like, what if actually you're like, what if like going to the gym is your meditation? And I started thinking like, yeah, the gym is my meditation. When I go to the gym, that's like really where my brain just is like, I know I'm with myself. Or like, and they're like, you're always talking about going to the beach. Like, what if that's your meditation, or those long walks, or honestly, I put away my clothes today, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that felt so good to look over into the corner and see that the pile's not there. I'm like, I did a nice thing for myself. That feels like self-care. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, a dear friend of mine says self-care for them is actually doing like taking like having tangible things that they can take care of. So instead of like unpacking the brain, but like doing something physical. So yeah, I guess that would be like doing the dishes, or like um, you know, whatever that cleaning is, like maybe doing some emails, like that's like a self-care thing for them. And I was like, oh, instead of thinking of like the emails as work, it's like that's something that's like my self-care routine is like doing my admin. I'm like, okay, interesting. You know,
Okay.
horrific.
Yeah, I can second that. So there was things that I've been sitting with that I know aren't big tasks, but
Yes. Yes.
because there's so many of them, it was like getting to me. Like to the point where like I'm like, okay, I got my book, I got my calendar, I got okay, I'm gonna sit down. My self-care is the ritual of making a good cup of tea. So I'm gonna do that. And
Mhm.
then I realized like I'm not even enjoying doing that. I'm like overlooking all the I didn't grab a pen. I totally forgot to whatever, and
Mhm.
I wasn't getting anything accomplished. Like this is insane. Like this is insane. And finally today I like methodically went through and checked like all these things off, and they just got bigger and bigger. And by the end of the day, I was like, we're like 2 seconds away from launching our website. Like, okay, this is amazing. And it honestly felt as good as like, oh, like, I don't even like a glass of wine and a T-bone steak. I don't even know. Like, I just
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
so
yeah. But that like
relaxed.
reward, that reward kind of idea. Yeah, for sure.
Like, we deserve to do those things for ourselves. We deserve to, like, accomplish those things in a day. And if doing the dishes is what that looks like, I completely understand why that feels good. Like,
Mhm.
seeing the results of it, and having, like, the space being, it doesn't even matter if the space is clean, but, like, knowing that you've accomplished getting the laundry pile out
Yes,
of the way,
yes,
like,
yes, exactly, exactly.
yeah, we need to not take those things for granted. That's for sure.
Yes, yeah, and you said you made mention there of like it's what was the wording that you said? Now I'm kind of forgetting. Oh, but it's like it's that idea of like, oh, it's not always. I was gonna say it's not always easy to do those things. Sometimes it's actually,
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's really hard to just be like, okay, I'm gonna go do the thing that I said I wanted to do. So it's like when you
Yeah.
do actually have the spoons or whatever resonates with you, the spoons or the energy or the, you know,
Yeah.
I have ADHD, so sometimes even to do one task, I do have to do about 15 others to get to be like, okay, now I'm sitting down to do the thing. And you know, I really am as ginger as I can with myself with that because I'm just like, hey, that's our rhythm. What if
Yep.
that's our rhythm? And I'm
Right.
just like, I'm just getting my rhythm here.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting to me because I'll start 15 tasks and it'll look messier as the day progresses, but I'll come out of it with all of them accomplished. And my partner is
Wonderful.
like, just do one so you can finish that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I can't. Like, I just can't. Like, just get out of my way and let
Yeah,
me just do all of it at once.
spread it
Like,
out, and do my all my little piles, right? So it's like finding our personal way of taking care of things. But that might
yeah.
look like very like, whoa, what are you doing? You're pulling everything out to other people. But meanwhile, like this is actually your organized approach or what have you. So
Just
yeah.
straight chaos. But it's the difference between, like, the music, right? Like, I've heard lately a lot, people are, I guess it's been scientifically proven that, like, metal music is therapeutic, and it's for a multitude of reasons, like the artist screaming, the just the way that the hertz are set, that the way that we receive them, the bass that's involved in it, and the double kickers, whatever, like, it's been scientifically
Interesting.
proven. And there's people that are like, I can't handle that. Like, it just feels so chaotic and upsetting, and I don't know what they're saying, and I find that confusing. And I'm like, okay, but, like, scientifically, it's been known to actually release the right dopamines and serotonin to, like,
Mhm.
produce this feeling of elation. There's a reason why people like it. Where, conflictively, they're like, I prefer classical music. I think classical music does that for me, and it creates that happy and relaxed space. And I'm like, maybe by just pure sound it would do that, but some people find it very overwhelming to hear
Yeah,
all the different pieces.
I have a friend that classical music literally brings them anxiety. They have to like turn it off. They're like, no, it's not for me. Like it's something about it just does not actually help them. I wonder if the opposite, or like not the opposite, but maybe like metal might be more their thing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, what contributes to, like, hormonally. Or would that be that? I guess it'd be like, how do we
Or like
release that
finding,
hormone? Like, what sound or what hertz releases that hormone for, like, individual people, and, like, what the factors would be genetically to do that.
mm,
Because
yeah,
in spaces around the world, we all, like, we all produce different types of music, right? Like, I wonder if that has to do with, like, that that Akkadian rhythm, as, like, not only a
mm.
genetic space, but also, like, a geographical space.
Oh, that is so interesting. What an interesting point. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what actually um and then taking it to like a healing aspect, like the music that's being generated and then the mood that gets generated from that music, like geography in the place that it's located in, um and whether that would affect people from other places. How
Yeah,
interesting.
like, is it certain
How
sounds that they make, like,
interesting.
bounce off the mountains to create, like, this echo effect? Or, like, do they need, like, the flat plains in order for that music to, like, be released past them
Mm.
so that it doesn't affect them? Like, I wonder if that's a thing.
That is so interesting. Okay.
Right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
way that we set up music spaces, like to be like the way we set up like an amphitheater, or the way like for something to be like acoustically flattering, like there's intent in that, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
right, so I wonder if that's like applicable to like organic spaces. It must, right? Like, or else we wouldn't do it with like brick
Well,
and mortar.
yeah, and now I'm thinking of like wood buildings, the kind of resonant that comes out of like got like places that gospel were like sung, and the resonance of the wood and just even the energy that's being pulled up and stirred up in a church just by like the way of prayer, or the gathering, and then and the vibrations of all of that.
Yeah, that's, you just like painted a beautiful picture of like a really gothic cathedral for me, with like, I can't imagine, like those really gothic like organs that
Yes, yes,
are,
yes, 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 yes.
right? Like that really saintly, like, I don't want to say Aryan, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Over
yeah,
in,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
I can't imagine, because when you were saying gospel, I'm thinking like black church, fabulous, lots of people, lots of like fabric,
Mhm.
and then the the oxymoron to that would be like this like kind of sharp, gnarly church. And like I can't picture that really gothic organ coming out of any space except for a really sharply gothic cathedral, right? Like,
Interesting. I've actually, because in Cumberland, BC, there's a organ that's in one of the churches, and um, yeah, I so resonate with the imagery that you're pulling up, and I fully agree with you. Like I can see it. It's like dark, and like even the place it's in is raining.
yeah, no, totally, yeah, yeah,
And then
like,
also on the same tip, like I know that those organs, the like that, like it's like almost sounds like a like the
yeah,
way. So it's interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
it
because
also has
this
angelic
the
deepness.
yeah, like the way that those instruments are set up are so massive, right? Like there's
Mhm.
nothing, like I wouldn't even relate it with like a piano, which I mean, they're the same family, right? Like, but I can't
Mhm.
even picture like
Or
a,
maybe even more not
it's like,
brass, but like wood.
like,
Mhm, 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 mhm,
right? And I
mhm.
just can't picture that sound coming out of anything else but the shapes of those cathedrals. The same way that when I think of like a drumming circle, there's not a whole lot kind of holding it in, right? It's like more round and like kind of the shape of,
Mm.
that organic, like a knot in a, not a knot, yeah, like a knot in wood, right? Like you kind of see that like organic kind of
Yes.
like
Yes, yes, yes,
ovally.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Up on those. Mm-hmm.
Feel like I need to see someone. I would like to see like an image of the world and then the sound of the music. Like, wouldn't that be cool to have like an
Ooh.
interactive map? Like you could just like lay your mouse over your hand over it and hear like what comes from that.
Totally, those areas.
Did we just come up with a business model for an app or something?
Yes, totally. Oh my gosh. CC, copied here.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. You heard it here first, you guys. I'm already getting the paperwork. Don't worry about it. You're not
Yes,
stealing the idea. We are.
yes, yes, yes. We got our people on it. Yes.
Wow.
And then I'm also curious of the actual vibrations that are being created in these different places, and the like actual
Mm.
because music is so healing. Music creates so much, like can literally change a vibration in a space. Just speaking can, like just being in one another's presence can, but specifically like even just thinking of that like organ and the wood pieces, and I'm imagining it, and it just feels so big, and like so I'm like I'm thinking about this app that we're creating, and I'm just
Yeah.
curious about like even just envisioning the sound waves that are like coming off of each region, and
Totally. The colors associated with it.
colors, yeah, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm.
Like a full atmospheric experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a friend, he was actually on here, and he creates like safe music for that. So he, like, the way he explained it to me is that he's like, I go in and find like sounds of NASA. So like they're like, like, yeah, cosmic sounds. And then he'll go out into like his yard and record say like frogs or whatever, and he'll like lay them over top of each other. And then there's a couple different frequencies like that he was really specific with, that he wasn't going to kind of let out of the bag, because I'm sure, like, everyone's got to make that money. But he said like there is definitely a different vibe for like each sound that feels appropriate. Because I mean, I'm sure there's got to be a science to it somewhere, but he's just going off of like what works for him. And when I checked it out, I actually, it was weird because I didn't tell anybody, and I just played it after my household went to bed. And I played it for a couple of nights, and then I didn't, and then I played it for a couple of nights. And it was interesting because collectively everyone had the same response in their sleep. And I was like, And finally one of them caught on and was like, I knew it. I knew there was something happening. And I was like, enough to like feel it. And they're like, because I felt like I was like astro traveling. I was dreaming so hard that he's like, there's no way that I was going to get there without like some sort of outside interjection. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry for like, assaulting you with my YouTube or whatever. But yeah, it was like enough that they were like, the kids were rested, and one of the nights everyone was super irritated, and I was like, interesting. Like there's definitely, because there's like a couple of frequencies that would have only made sense for one of them, and then everybody else was like not feeling it, and I'm like,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is making me also think of like listening to affirmations while you sleep, or like listening to, or like on the other side of it, like sometimes I'll literally just be like, I'll be holding my phone when I'm sleeping, and I've got a sound bite going, whatever it is, something random. Have you seen my boyfriend? Just over and over and over. And I'm like, and I wake up and I'm like, what did that do? What did that do in my sleep? Because I know when I do have the calling to throw in like some affirmations, robotic affirmations while I sleep, I wake up a completely different person. I really do feel like I wake up with this completely, like, whether I'm rested or not, it's just this sense of myself that that I'm not like like, it just kind of like, all right, okay, let's get into it. So
isn't it so nice when you feel comfortable in your skin?
Yes. That has been like a full-on journey for me. Full-on journey. I feel like literally in the last like 72 hours, I've felt more comfortable than ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I
Really?
literally, last week I was like having, I don't know if maybe it was in preparation of the moon coming up, or just like some limited beliefs stirred up. But yeah, I was definitely like tapped into the energy of just like, it's like a self concept that was developed as a kid of, because I'm trans, I'm gender fluid, and like as I developed as a child, things felt, didn't feel as comfortable as before. And then the self concepting of just like, the more I am with myself, the more I'm like, oh dang, is this all from when I was a kid? Like, am I unpacking so much from when I was a child? And literally it's just this voice in my head from when I was a kiddo, just like, that's like, and I like feel sad to even say it, but just as like, yeah, you're ugly. You don't belong. Like, and so it came up so strong that in the last couple of days, or like last week, and I really was sitting with it and kind of just like like, okay, this is here, this is here. And
Yeah.
then you know, I think I just out of the blue, I was like, wait, hold up. I really was out here telling myself that I'm not everything I'm meant to be, like something just shifted. Something just shifted. And I tapped into that feeling of like being like, okay, this is the body I was given. This is the
Yeah, so
body
you're
you chose.
beautiful. Like
Oh,
that's
thank you.
wild, and none of that has anything to do with gender. That's like as soon as I clicked over, I was like, "Whoa, okay." Like it like shot me. Okay, you can go back and run all my intros. I don't think there's ever been a time where I was like, "Ah!" Like, oh, like,
Aw. Well, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I received that.
Yeah, like but I mean, we're tough on ourselves, right? Like it's easy to get stuck. I mean, I'm not trans, but I am mixed race, and it was always one of those things like I'm too white to be black, I'm too black to be
Yes.
white. Both households were, there's things like in a black house you can say like white people thing, and that's not a thing. Like it's not even racist. It's just like something that's said. But if my
Yes.
white family ever said, freaking
No.
black people, it would like
No. No.
and so
Yes.
even just like trying to figure out where like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, like my god. And then I went to Jamaica with like all the confidence in the world only to be told that I like talk like um Brittany and
Wait,
Nikki.
Brittany's oh my,
Yeah.
okay. Yes. I can
And
so
I was like, dang, okay, well, yeah, I'm Canadian. Like I don't know what else
I'm
is.
just
I mean,
exactly.
and I mean, neither of those girls are Canadian, so I don't even know what the heck they were talking about. But I was like, okay, like, sure, and like these are like people that I shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable around. So I'm like, okay, like I didn't even know that I was any of these things. Like I mean, I was 10 years old before someone actually told me. Like, I don't.
Totally. I feel like that is such a shared experience with mixed humans. And I
Yes.
was gonna say like, um, I can I think back and I'm like, oh, that was me like since coming out as trans. I'm like, okay, I see where those moments were happening as a kid. And then also I think that self-concept thing happened because yeah, I was like the only black kid in a white neighborhood. And
Yeah.
and it's that exactly all the things that you mentioned, like literally every single thing that you said that attributed it to this unpacking that I get the opportunity and I have the space for unpacking now and like just being with myself with.
That's
But
so good. Yeah,
yeah,
I completely understand that. It took me till, I mean, I'm 35 now, and I finally am like, I've always been a super confident person. I've always
yes,
like, I'm known as like the devil's advocate. I have no problem like pushing people, either away or pushing them to like think better. Like I don't care, and it's not that I don't care. I don't care enough that I think that everyone should, just do better. Like, right? Like that's just, but it took me 35 years to actually be like, oh, this is who I am. Like,
mm-hmm.
this is okay. So my eyebrows are supposed to look at this. This is what my face is supposed to look like. Like, this is what
Mm-hmm.
my hips, my body, my boobs, like, this is what I'm supposed to look like. Like, there is no sculpting it to look something else. Like, this is it. It has always been
Period.
that. Like, what are you doing? It's all good, and to highlight your stuff or whatever, if that's what you want to do. But like, that you've been in this skin long enough to figure it out that this is it. And I was like, this ain't bad, actually. Like,
Yes,
all right,
and that was
okay.
the aha moment that I had. I love that you illustrated that because that's literally because I was having this moment where I was like, I don't know what I look like and I don't know who I am and I'm not recognizing myself and I'm not loving myself and there's this hatred for myself inside. And then I was like, let me just look at my pictures. And I
Yeah.
started looking at these pictures, like because I got pictures all the way from when I was a kiddo on my Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
going through and I'm looking at all these different pictures where I know I like this photo. Oh, I like that photo. Oh, I see that version of myself. I see that. And I started just loving all of these different versions and seeing a
Mm.
through line. And I was like, I look exactly this. I'm always, my essence is here. And like
Yes.
literally it was my aha moment just a few days ago. I was like, Oh, okay. There you are, pal. There you are, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah,
what's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
up?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's like, oh wait, you're you damn good looking. My God.
yeah,
Why were we out here? You know? Why are we out
yes,
here trying to make ourselves feel anything other than? But you know,
right?
it's the journey. It's the as I've been saying, it's the journey. Yeah.
Man, it's such a powerful thing when you click into it though, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. Excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and appreciate whatever the hell is on this plate because it like once you're good, you can eat, a bagel or avocado toast. It actually doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's just something.
Exactly. 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 Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
freeing. You can step outside and not have this like whole ritual before you get out there. Like people at the
Mhm.
post office are not worried about my eyelashes. That much I know,
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, congrats to us. You know, getting
Yeah.
through those layers, and I'm sure
Yes.
there'll be more layers to like,
Mm.
and we'll start. There'll be another layer of loving that we get to shine on ourselves.
Isn't that so? It's going to be really neat to experience oneself older. Like I'm excited
Mhm.
to be like the crazy lady on the porch yelling at the neighborhood. Like I'm here for it. Like I'm ready. Like I'm excited to see like more of my grays come in and
Yeah.
like the interesting features that come out. Like are you looking forward to that?
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm 37, and
Okay.
this year, I had this moment where I was like, I've never worried about my age, like the number never, it was always just like, yes, I love this age. And
Yeah.
then 37, something happened where I was like, oh, I'm 37, like, and um, and then I realized, wait, I literally want to get older. So that was all that shifted. And I was like, yes, I love this. And I started being like, okay, we have a little bit more wrinkles in here. And like, you
Yes.
know, because the goal is to continue to age.
That's
So,
yeah. I mean, and there isn't. It's like it's happening whether
yeah,
we choose it or
exactly.
not. Like, I have someone in my life who has worn anti-wrinkle cream since we were children, and that's cool.
Interesting.
Like, do your thing. Um, but that type of pressure, like, I mean, if that's your self-care ritual and that's what makes, because I know that that's what it is. I'm just using it as an example in the other direction. Like, if that's what it is that makes you feel good, then do you. But
Hmm.
I can't imagine that type of pressure like from day one. Like that wasn't at that age. I don't think that was a choice. That was like bestowed.
Yeah.
Like that was like someone
Yeah.
was like, "This is maybe what we do." But um, I'm like, bring it on, man. Like, I mean, I might tweeze my chin hair because those can chill out a little bit. But
Yeah.
other than that, I'm like here for it.
Yeah. 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 Little extra hairs here and there. Yeah, totally. I was like, oh, I got nose hair. Okay, interesting. I don't remember having nose hair, but all right, all right. You know, there's bits to like my grandfather and my grandmother. Like my grandfather, I loved his like creases in his face, and like,
Yeah,
'cause I only knew him as an old man, older
right.
man. Well, well into his age, like in his 70s when I was born. So
Hmm.
I just always appreciated these like creases and the like thickness of his skin, and like and his wise stories, and just the years that he lived, because he would had so many stories to share, like, and those were the bits that I just loved of my elders around me. So it's like, it is neat to think like we're going to be elders, we're going to be
Yeah.
ancestors.
Yes, yes, ancestors. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. My son, I was watching him. I've been so spoiled lately with grandparents. So my kids' great grandparents. And actually my son got to meet like his great great grandparents on both sides, which is really
Wow.
unusual. Yeah.
Great. Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, yeah. So my great grandpa, he met my great grandparents, but I've been
Okay.
so spoiled, and I'm just like, the way that I look at the way that we look at beauty in youth is the same way I got to watch my son look at his great grandpa. Like, he is just everything. And I'm like, that is so neat. Like, and I asked him, like, what does it feel like to be, next in line? Like, if that's just the reality of it. And he's like, right, but like, I'm the greatest. And I was like, right,
Yes, yes,
right,
yes.
right, of course.
I love that. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's
Mm-hmm.
graduation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then finally rest after all this crazy lifetime, right? I mean, who doesn't?
Mhm.
I keep saying, I'm going to sleep when I'm dead. I'm going to sleep when I'm dead. And man, am I going to sleep good?
Oh yeah, you'll be the most cozy, ominous mist up there. My
Listener,
grandfather,
no?
yeah, my grandfather said something so beautiful before he transitioned, and uh, if you don't mind me sharing, I
No, please.
okay, awesome, yeah, he was saying because I hadn't seen them for a while, and I could tell that it was like they were in their 90s. So he was just like, listen, like, we've lived a long life, and we're ready. And he was saying, when we're in our in the womb world, in our parents' womb,
Yeah.
we're building our fingertips, our nose, our ears to hear. We're building our legs, our feet, all of these things that we actually don't need there. But once we are in this world, we need all the pieces. And he said, I know that I've gathered everything I need for the next world. And I just was like, I was shocked by that. I never thought of, the different aspects as this, I don't know. It just was like the most magical thing I ever heard in my whole life. And it gives me it gives me uh the knowing that we're meant to soak up as much as possible here, you know.
That just brought me so much, sorry, that just brought me so much peace.
Mm.
Uh,
Aww. Aww. Yay. Yeah. Yeah. It hit me just to see. Honestly, I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Wise
I'm,
words.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, excuse me. That it just brought so much peace.
Mm.
And it makes so much sense.
Mhm, mhm. I know, hey? It really does. I'd love to hear more of what's coming up for you as you heard that.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, the more people that you love, the more people that we have to lay to rest.
Mm,
And unfortunately, that's been a pretty heavy number. And I
mm,
immediately just thought, like, everyone that has, transitioned on has lived such an interesting life. And it made me think, like, all of those experiences, whether they were good or bad or whatever, like, created the things that they need to be and to give back in the next space. Like, if we need our ears to hear here, then did those, like, trials and tribulations or in elated feelings give them, like, the right enlightenment tools then to, like,
yes.
be in this, right?
I'm getting shivers. I have shivers
Yeah.
all over. Oh my God, yes. I never took it to that aspect. Oh my gosh, yes.
Right, like, because how else do you gain tools that are that astronomic? Like,
Mhm.
it must be like those extreme kind of lessons that give you those, like, spiritual, and maybe not, maybe it is like the peace that we get when we do these, like, little self-care things, but the thought of it all being for something,
Yeah,
regardless of the timeline, is so refreshing. And
I love that.
yeah, yeah, I'm really grateful for you sharing that, because uh, I haven't really had time to think about a lot of those moments, especially like when you're that person in everyone's life, you just, get through it. And
Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
something that I've been like talking about a lot lately. I'm like, I really need to like go back and grieve some of these situations. Like I told a story the other night to a couple friends of mine and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, like back to the business meeting. And he was like, no, like, are you okay? Like you just said that like you've lost three of your brothers, like shut this meeting down. Like, and I was like, no, like okay, what's the topic for next week? And like, cause we were talking about grief and stuff. And these are two like big burly dudes, right? And they were like, okay, no, pause. So in that, I'm like, okay, clearly I need to kind of maybe go back and really think about what it was in those when you don't have time to grieve and you're going through it. Maybe it's not always necessary, but like maybe it is. And I don't know if I need to go back and really think anything. I think that just knowing that that's even just one person's idea is enough for me to like tuck that away and be confident with it.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting what actually can serve as the grieving process. It can just be those words that you need to hear that can
Yeah.
really serve that
Yeah.
release, that honoring, and yeah,
Absolutely. Because
yeah.
I was like, who's got time to go back and cry about all this? Who's got time to go back? I don't want, like, my gosh. In that, not that that was the reason why it didn't happen in the first place, but I was like, I don't want to have to go back and live all this again.
I feel that.
I like where it is. I like how comfortable everybody is. I like that, we can get through a family dinner without worrying about that place setting. Like I love that that's where we're at because we got babies and we got sisters. We got, like we don't need to be like it doesn't need to be sad. And like just to think that yeah. Yeah, smart human in your world. Smart, like smart.
Grandfather, Brian
Yeah,
Conrad.
grandpa for the
Oh,
absolute win.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
wow,
He's definitely a leader for sure.
wise.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, Spirit, I think, um, wanting to carve that moment out for you. So I'm so glad that I was able to, just be able to pass that along to you.
Yeah, no, thank you for thank you for that message. I mean, I didn't know. It's so funny because like as soon as I clicked over to backstage, it actually like it like fucked me up. And I don't normally, yeah, like it doesn't normally do that. Like I'm like, I know what to expect. I know what's going on. Not a big deal. Just I love what I do, and I'm so blessed that people take the time out of their day to come and chat with me. Like I feel so honored and loved, and I have so much respect for everybody and the industries that they're in and the advocacy that they do, and like it's crazy. But there was like a total shift that happened, like when I sat down, and I didn't realize it at the time, but yeah, thank you obviously for whatever you've been doing in your personal life to allow yourself to be in like a spiritual space or an alive or a receiving space for that, because I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Wow. I receive all of that. Oh my gosh, I still receive all of that. Thank you. And I'm just honored to be able to have this conversation. Yeah, I love that we were on and popping as soon as we got on here. We're just like, we're old friends,
Yeah.
So yeah, it felt very natural.
Very, very neat.
Mm-hmm.
I did have, not to change the mood, but I did have a question for you.
Yeah.
And it has to do with your transition, if you don't mind.
I'd be down to talk about it for sure.
Okay. When you said that you had, because I've been through your Facebook, or no, that's not true. Yeah, I've been through some of your socials, and I didn't think about it until you were talking about it. But when you look back at your photographs, is there like like, do you appreciate them for the time that you were in those photos? Like, when you look back at them, are you like, do you still respect it, like, what you were doing in that moment fully? Or
Mm,
do you feel like you need to, like, put something else over top of maybe
like
the image of you know you know what I mean? Not
I
just
totally know
truly,
what you
but, like,
mean.
metaphorically.
I totally know what you mean. Yeah, I like I was saying, I'm able to because I'm able to see the through line. I think that's what really is like yeah, because I used to be called Chelsea. I talk about Chelsea. I talk about it in a bit of a third person only because along with my transition, I also had an NDE, a near death experience. So
Oh, wow.
when I came back out of the near death experience, because I was in a coma, that's when I changed my name and transitioned. So
Oh,
it because it's almost like a before March 27th when I had cardiac arrest, and then after. So I do see the through line.
okay.
I think also it's like me relating because Chelsea really is a different person. Like
Yeah.
I did different things. I thought differently. Like there is that through line. Like I feel like somewhere down the line, Leo and Chelsea split off, and I went on Chelsea's tip.
Yeah.
and then and then I had the NDE, and then Leo was like, "What's up?" And now
What's
we're
good?
you know, and leading into the NDE, I was like, as I said, I was like, "Oh, this mindfulness," and so there was
Yeah.
this there was this like entrance of me um yeah being able to witness myself in this new way or this
Wow.
and I don't even want to say new because it as I said I feel like it has always I- not that I feel I know it has always been there. It was just like a discovery, it had been a
Yes.
discovery. So I definitely like I look at those photos and I see myself in
Yeah.
all its different forms. And I think this also is true to my transness, as I've always changed my outer look. Like, even if you look at my before coming out, I would always just drastically switch it up.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
so I think it's just that idea of wanting to, like, yeah, wanting to find that way that really feels like, okay, now I can express myself. Um,
Yeah.
but I
Hmm.
found looking at those photos like really helpful for my transition, and to know like yeah, like Leo has been I can see Leo in every photo. It's like this interesting thing. All of it kind of lives on top of one another,
Yeah.
um but yeah,
Hmm.
I just looking at myself in the camera right now, I'm like, oh yeah, I see myself. I really see myself. I can really
Yeah.
see myself. So it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, I actually feel the same way. I sit here all the time and do this, and I've never actually like this is the first night I've ever worn white, I think, on the hair, just to give you
Okay.
guys like a fit, you know?
Hey,
And
good
as I
check.
like come up to my boots, I'm like, no. So like tonight's the first night I've ever worn white. I always wear black, like black sleeves, black whatever. And for whatever reason, it just like feels this whole experience just felt different. Like I'm like, yeah, I don't know if it's the layout or we both have like this matching kind of camera angle. It feels like really powerful. Or maybe it's just that
Mhm.
I'm like being really selfish with it. And I'm like, I don't really care what's happening off onto the internet. I'm just super grateful to like have met you and have this conversation. But yeah, I feel super full right now. Just yeah, pretty
Oh, me
awesome.
too. And on such a beautiful night too with the full moon and
Is it? I mean,
yeah, it's a full moon tonight and it's said to be one of the luckiest days, one of the luckiest days. So
wow.
lots of releasing and like, yeah, just being like what are those desires? Um, yeah, I just saw loving this fam. Oh,
Yeah.
so wonderful. I was like, woo, okay, but yeah, what are those desires that we want that that are just that are ready
Mm,
to be ignited. But yeah, so I just feel like this conversation is also just being, speaking of ignited by the full moon for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll have to go outside and stand in it for a little while after
Yes,
this.
yes, we'll have, yeah, totally. We'll have to moonbathe for sure.
Definitely. I feel like that I feel like I'm gonna be selfish and wrap this up and end on that.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I also love you being selfish. That's the best.
I'm like, people don't get to witness any more of this. I think we're gonna tuck this back in. Wow.
I've just been, by the way, I've been getting shivers the whole time. I've just been like, I'm like, just like keep on getting the, like, I'm still getting them as I'm saying it. It's like, yeah, really, 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 really lovely.
Yeah. I'm like, my cheeks hurt from like smiling, like every. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I appreciate it like you wouldn't believe. I'm not even really sure how to close this off other than just saying thank you so much. And we absolutely have to do this again.
Yeah, let's do it. I can't wait for the next one. Oh, I feel honored and blessed that I got to come together with you.
All right, I'll try and be half professional here. You guys, if you are tuned in or if you watch this in the future, I'm going to throw all the links in the comment section. Please go, and I guess we'll have a date and I'll pop the link back in so we can see what you've been up to. Because if you guys haven't caught a vibe already, go ahead and catch up with what's happening around here. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and stay safe.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye.